Will the US dollar lose its role as a world reserve currency, as some of its competitors hope? Many experts are starting to worry at this time of economic turmoil and political fighting. With a national debt of over $32 trillion, the US is deeply in debt, and it's only going to grow worse. The problem is not the size of the debt, but also the way the government continues to spend. In this RTD quick take, we'll look at why the US dollar might lose its status as the world reserve currency and what that could mean for the rest of the world. This entire transition doesn't have to be all that bad at the end of the day. Let's talk about this. Changes in geopolitics over the last few years are a big reason why the US dollar is no longer the world's main currency. People around the world see the US as an aggressor because of its policies of war, secret operations, as well as violence, which has killed millions of people since 1945. The U.S. foreign policy is run by British-American neocons, which has made relationships with other countries very tense and strained throughout the years. This has led many countries to look for other ways to store and send their currency, and a great example, of course, is the Chinese yuan, which seems like day by day is becoming more and more popular. The short-sighted, green-driven crony capitalism that has ruled the U.S. economy for years is also a major factor. The U.S. thought that going into China, trying to spare democracy, by incentivizing capitalism and consumption would get rid of the pesky communism model, but it didn't realize that China is an old hierarchical kingdom that hasn't been very good when it comes to respecting individual rights and freedoms. The kleptocrats in the West have drained the well dry, and now they have to figure out how to move and keep this current system operational and in their own favor. In the meantime, the World Economic Forum has become even more committed to the idea of making all businesses international, with their goal of combining government and business in their public-private partnerships, New World Order stakeholder agenda, which ultimately destroys individual rights in the name of climate, social, and economic justice. Their expensive propagandists are telling everyone that they are bad people if they don't want their kids to be transgender, or if they don't want to think about things that happened 300-400 years ago, or pay reparations for that. These are some very bad people we're talking about here, and they're ruining cities by letting violent crime happen, messing up and destroying schools, and putting all the blame on the most independent people, just like every narcissist has ever done throughout history. Western propaganda is the exact opposite of what unity, oneness, and cultural purpose are all about, and it shows no respect for natural traditions or cultures. This is deliberate and on purpose. The goal is to kill off the West and to strategically build up the global South to a point where it can be exploited for another 50 to 100 years as this current model we live in fades away. It also helped that the BRICS countries, which have all the natural resources, are getting their time to shine, while Europe and the other G7 countries are very short on natural resources and loaded with debt. Because of this, many countries have been looking for other ways to store and to transact, and clearly China and Russia appear to have some solutions, and it has nothing to do with the US dollar. The US dollar loses power and influence around the world as this keeps happening. This change from the US dollar being the world reserve currency to something else would have big effects on the US, as it would make it even more expensive for the U.S. government to borrow, which is one thing they've become very good at, and also could cause individual as well as business interest rates to go sky high. The end result will be the value of the U.S. dollar dropping, which would raise prices for imports, and ultimately, the so-called fight for inflation will get out of hand because there'll be no way for them to hide those bogus figures they've been giving us for the last couple of months now. Also, if the United States stopped being the world reserve currency, it would make the country less powerful and influential around the world on issues such as trade, foreign policy, and human rights. It will be easier for other countries to take on a more leadership role as the U.S. is kicked to the back seat. So what can people do to protect themselves against these possible financial problems? Well, obviously, if you know how money works, you know that gold and silver are the best ways to protect yourself from a failing government and monetary system. However, the best opportunities will come from thinking outside the box and keeping an eye out for disruptive trends. When times are uncertain and chaos prevails, the world is in need of answers, and we clearly have reached a point where a sweet spot between the world's problems and your solution could be the real opportunity for your family to build wealth that will last for decades. So how do we look for these opportunities? Look for people and ideas that upset the status quo, ultimately speaking. The solutions that will have the most impact will be those that change the way people think about many different areas of their lives today. A few examples are how AI and virtual reality and other technologies have changed the way people do business. Technology is one, and leveraging your passions with technology as a tool can create massive opportunities for you and your family in this new world we're entering into. There are a lot of them out there, of course. Those are just a couple of examples I thought I would share with you. Have to spend time looking and being willing to learn new skills and embrace the changes that's coming. And it all boils down to getting outside your comfort zones as you learn and apply what you're learning. But anyway, just wanted to share some thoughts. What do you think about this? What other opportunities do you see within this transition away from the current Federal Reserve note system and their tools at some point in the future no longer being the preferred method of international trade? Not everything has to be doom and gloom at this current moment. There are opportunities out there. I'm curious to hear what you think. Leave a comment down below. If you found any value here, hit that thumbs up button. Make sure you share this so more people can find out on what's going on and be willing to challenge their current biases and not just think everything's going to be hunky-dory forever. Anyway, I'll see you guys later.